So we had RFK Jr. testifying in front of Congress about government censorship, and not unironically, the Democrats led by Debbie Wasserman Schultz tried to censor him, claiming that what he had to say was so dangerous that it couldn't be set in front of cameras and broadcasted out to the public. And this failed, of course, because Republicans run the House, but that did not stop the Democrats from trying. So since we have this issue of censorship being talked about, I think this is a good time to review a recent paper by one of my favorite think tanks, the RAND Corporation. And as I've said in my previous videos, if you want to get a glimpse at the mindset of the elites, you go to their think tanks, because what you see in their think tanks eventually pop up in public policy being proposed by our politicians in the future. So, got a paper from RAND Corporation called Truth Decay is Putting U.S. National Security at Risk. So I like this new term, truth decay, and every time the government wants to take away your rights, one of the things they always point to is national security. National security being so important and under such a threat that your liberties need to be curtailed, and in this case, disinformation needs to be stopped because, well, we're all going to die if people are allowed to speak. So I'm going to go through this article. I've highlighted the juicy parts because obviously we don't want to read a long paper. And I got the parts that really tell us what they're thinking. And some of it is, if you read it, and just it's quite shocking, actually. It kind of blows my mind that anybody writes any of this and afterwards doesn't go, wow, that's pretty totalitarian. But yeah, I just wrote that. But apparently these people who write this don't have these same feelings, and they have no sense of, wow, I'm part of the problem here. So the article starts out like this. One second. America's troubled relationship with facts is putting national security at risk. A recent RAND paper warned that truth decay, the diminishing role of facts and analysis in public life, could weaken our military, cost us credibility with our allies, and calls into question our ability to respond to the next big crisis. Weaken our military, and we're going to lose credibility with our allies. Let's forget the whole Iraq war thing that was pushed by people from these same think tanks. I think that destroyed a lot of our credibility. But this next section here I found particularly interesting. Not so long ago, political experts assumed foreign policy and national security were above the public fray. They were the domain of diplomats, intelligence agents, and other career specialists. The average person on the street couldn't find most countries on a map. The thinking went, much less have a meaningful impact on the affairs of state. One pundit in the 1950s described the public as a prehistoric monster when it comes to foreign affairs, with a body as long as this room and the brain the size of a pin. It's a very flattering way to describe the general public, and of course the message here is that don't worry about foreign policy. Leave it to the people who are Rhodes Scholars, who have a history in their family of serving in the State Department. You, the general public, you're stupid. Leave it to us to worry about these issues. It's over your head. And maybe that would be a compelling argument if we didn't have 60 years of just failure from our foreign policy establishment, starting back with Vietnam. So I always find it ironic when they chastise the public and browbeat us and say, you guys can't handle these things, these important issues, when they themselves have a monumental record of failure. But this is their arrogance coming out here, and just their disdain of the general public. That's not a going theory anymore. Research has shown that public opinion often shaped by politicians and other leaders, can exert a powerful force on questions of war and peace and national security. A 2019 study, for example, found that members of the Israeli parliament were 16 percentage points more likely to authorize a military strike when they thought that's what the public wanted. That gives Truth Decay a win. And so apparently the public and politicians, again, shouldn't be making decisions on foreign policy and issues of war. These need to be driven by the experts at the foreign policy establishment. Now, again, my question, which war over the last 60 years that has failed was driven by the general public? Who was clamoring to invade Iraq? Was it the general public? Who was supporting this war in Syria? Was it the general public? Who supported the overthrow of Gaddafi, which collapsed Libya? Was it the general public? So again, they're lecturing us for engaging in actions that are detrimental to our society, when in fact it is they who are the ones that have done this. It is not the general public that is war hungry. It is people at the Rand Corporation, again, with a monumental record of failure. Well, let's continue. The experts generally agreed that truth decay is getting worse. Several said they think political leaders now lie more shamelessly and more constantly about issues of national security. Some had worked in the intelligence community and describe trying to brief very ideological policymakers who would sometimes reject assessments that did not fit their views. And of course, they're talking about Donald Trump. This is the entire period from 2017 to 2020, when Trump openly said he does not trust the intelligence community, and he had a reason not to, because the illegal FISA warrants, the illegal spying, and all the stories that were leaked by the intel community that harmed him, that turned out to be false. 50 former CIA directors and FBI directors say that the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian propaganda. I can't imagine why Trump did not trust the intelligence community. Going on, and this part here I found particularly interesting, so I'll read the entire thing. It starts with individuals, those average people on the street, as well as political leaders, now more rigid in their beliefs and more isolated in their news bubbles. That growing polarization is driving important policy debates to extremes. Pew polls in 2021 found that people who rely mostly on right or left-leaning news sources have much sharper views of China than other people, even in their political party. From there, truth decay attacks American institutions, spreading through Congress. It gums up the gears of effective government and raises real doubts that politicians could pull together in a crisis. But it also strikes at the military, threatening to undermine unit cohesion and undercuts confidence in the intelligence community. In an age of dizzying technological advance and rapidly multiplying threats, it makes it that much harder to recruit the brightest minds to government service. The brightest minds to government service. It also hurts America on the world stage, as Russia massed troops and tanks on its border with Ukraine in 2022. The U.S. released evidence that the Kremlin was planning to fake a Ukrainian attack as a pretext for war. The impact that intelligence had on world opinion depended on American credibility. And American credibility is directly in the path of truth decay. China, Russia, and other adversaries already know this. They have weaponized disinformation, seeding the internet with rumors and conspiracy theories in the panic early days of COVID-19, for example. That helped slow this response and almost certainly cost lives. But it also makes it harder to hold up American democracy as a model for the world. Wow. Truth Decay is attacking American institution, spreading its tentacles out there, and destroying American society. Someone wrote this with a straight face, and this is what blows my mind. And the second part here, you could walk up to most Americans and ask them, what are our national interests? And there would actually be a lot of agreement, said Williams, the Associate Director of International Security and Defense Policy Program at RAND. Now, how do we achieve those national interests? There are lots of legitimate views about that, but truth decay makes it harder for people to have a reasoned debate. Partisanship and political self-interest get pushed to such an extreme that there is no middle ground where compromises, let alone consensus, can be achieved. But she added, this does not have to be a bad news story. Truth decay doesn't have to be the villain behind every storyline. Rand's framework points to opportunities to fight back. The U.S. intelligence community, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and other government agencies are already investigating or investing in efforts to swat down misinformation and disinformation before they take hold. Efforts to strengthen media literacy and civics education in school could also help strengthen the public against truth decay, especially on questions of national security. Now, they talk about U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Remember this lady. They tried this. Nina Genkowitz and the Disinformation Governance Board. This was so over the top Orwellian that they actually had to reverse course and shut this whole thing down. That's how bad it was. And they picked at the time, a 34-year-old woman to run this disinformation board. And just a reminder of who she is, this is her singing her little song about disinformation. This is a little bit jarring, so just, you're warned.
Information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious.
I'll stop it there. But that's who they had, who they wanted to run this information board, and even that was too much for people on the left and not just the right, and it was shut down. But keep an eye on that. It went away, but oftentimes when this happens, they pull it away, they repackage it, change the name, and bring it back very quietly when you're not paying attention. So I do think in the future they're going to try to slip it back in at some point. And do it surreptitiously. So watch out for that. Oops. But back to the article here. It says political moderates should also raise their voices more and present facts and analysis as nonpartisan. The military, which still has widespread public trust, can play this role as well. Tech and social media companies bear significant responsibility for the spread of truth decay, the researchers noted, and should do more to moderate what they allow on their platforms. Now, what I found interesting here is that they want to use the military to spread information. They're going, okay, well, they don't trust these guys over here, the CIA, the FBI, they don't trust the White House spokesman. People generally trust the military. So how about we have the military make statements and see if that works as far as getting the public to accept our narrative. And one thing that is tangentially related to this is that they actually had a study, and I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but basically we're saying that instead of having certain figures that people are sort of resistant to, like white males, use women or minorities to be spokesmen to spread messages because they might have an easier time getting their message out. So, like for example, the White House spokeswoman, Pierre, whatever her name is, black female, and there's actually the one of the Pentagon spokespeople is a woman of Indian descent. So they're mixing it up, diversifying who's sending out these messages to see if these people with a different background might have an audience that's more receptive. So that's one of their strategies. And mitigating influences and mechanisms. Domestic legal restraint institutions could play an important role in raising the penalties for those who spread misinformation in this area. Actors who spread misinformation are beginning to be punished when it crosses lines into regulated areas. For example, in Texas, a man was given a jail sentence for spreading COVID-19 information under a federal law that makes false information about biological weapons a criminal act. Now, this is an interesting case. This knucklehead in Texas posted, I think, on Twitter or Facebook that he paid some guy with COVID-19 to go to a store and just lick bottles. Stupid. Don't do that. But they got this guy, and like they said, they used a part of the criminal code about biological weapons, and he got 15 months in jail. So I'm not saying that what he did wasn't wrong, but I find it kind of troublesome that biological weapons for making a joke about somebody licking bottles because they had a cold or COVID-19. I'm not sure I want to go down that path. Maybe community service. I don't know. I could think of a million things a lot worse than that doesn't get punished with 15 months in prison. So I think that might be a dangerous road to go down. And of course, again, they're encouraging more of this. And finally, here, private sector actors and technology companies. Social media platforms should do more, and the media should do more to censor information. And again, they add the media here, and we all know, or most of us, we don't trust the media. And when the media starts to fact check things, we all roll our eyes because we know it's full of crap. And referring to the media, again, let's remember Operation Mockingbird. That is when the CIA had their assets in the media to shape public opinion. So if you want me to trust the media, how about the CIA come out and say explicitly, we have zero assets, zero people in the mainstream media spreading our message. You have them do that, and then maybe I will trust that the media is not censoring people and trying to push the establishment viewpoint. And this is my biggest frustration, whether it's the media, the CIA, the FBI, the government. We have a million examples of them lying over and over and over again, and there's never an apology. Has the FBI apologized for illegally spying on Trump, for fudging documents, for using the dossier to spy on people, for lying about Russian bounties? Have they apologized for that? Did they apologize for the Hunter laptop sword and censoring that? Where's the apology? NSA admit they spy on us. James Clapper. Who has apologized and who has paid? Who has gone to jail for all these violations of our civil liberties? Who? Name one person from the FBI or CIA who's gone to jail because they broke the law and lied to us, and none of them have. So if you want the public to trust you, government, apologize, stop lying, and when people in power break the law, send their ass to jail. Do that, and then you will have the trust of the public, and you won't have to have these Rand Corporation write these articles about how they're going to try to fight truth decay, because we are not buying their BS anymore. Do that, and you might make some headway, but I won't hold my breath. Well, that's it for now. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.